Hey everyone, Joe here. Now, if you're listening to this show, I can probably safely assume that you are an SNES aficionado, and that's great, but some of you might have owned a PC during those heady days of the early 90s, and if you did, you might even have played some games on them. And if you did that, you might enjoy my podcast, The Upper Memory Block. In every episode, we go deep into a game or game series and talk about things like the story, the gameplay, and technical specs, but more importantly, we dive deep into the development of the games, what makes them special, and whether or not they still hold up today. So if all of that sounds interesting, come check out the Upper Memory Block podcast at umbcast.com. Thanks for your time, and now I'm proud to introduce the SNES podcast.
$200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES. You're listening to the SNES podcast with your hosts, Soul Blazer and George.
Hello, everybody. This is Greg, one of your regular co-hosts of the Super NES podcast, joined by my other regular co-host, George.
Tasty pixels.
Well, you're not doing anything with eating the Lemmings, unfortunately, because I have no idea how they taste. Probably not good.
The green part is the best.
Well, they're all kind of green, actually.
Well, I mean, they're not. Their hair is green.
The hair's green. Some of the ports, the skin kind of looks greenish, but you know, depending upon because this is an old game, the resolution's not that good anyway. We were talking about in this episode Lemmings, episode number 99. We're almost there, like the big 100.
Jeez.
So, but yes, this was a Patreon demanded game by Superbacker Chad. So thank you again, Chad, for your support of the.
I'd like to say it's a Patreon request, not a demand.
Well, it's just like you know.
I demand you to play this game, Greg.
Didn't actually mind playing it because I'd been a long time since I picked this game up.
I never played this game before,
really?
So yes.
That's a surprise, because like how long the franchise has been around and how popular it's been. So, but
it's not that I haven't known about Lemmings. Mm-hmm. It's just that I've never honestly played it.
I played it at a friend's house back when it first came out, like the PC, like in the early 90s. Never actually owned the game myself because I suck at puzzle games, but yeah. Fun game. So fun to come back to it. Lemmings originally came out for the Amiga in 1991. It was developed by a small company called DMA Design and published by Psygnosis.
Please tell me what DMA Design is doing right now, Greg.
I was going to get to that. DMA Design's probably better known today by a different company name. That you may have heard DMA Design, but I can almost guarantee you've heard of the company that they're known as now. DMA Design got their DMA Design real quick got their start in Britain. Got their start in Britain in 1994. By three friends. They were the company was originally like known as a sorry, the company was originally like known as like Acme, and then they like renamed themselves like a few years in 1987, 3 years after they founded DMA Design. They were primarily known for. So they were primarily known. They were primarily known at first, like doing shooters, like on the Amiga, Atari ST, and the Commodore 64. Some of which are included in Lemmings as I guess hidden bonus levels. I'm not sure if you ever got to do any of those, George, but
I have not.
yeah, they do homage to some.
I actually did not know that.
There's four homage stages that there to some of the earlier shooter games, like in Lemmings. So, but then. And then with Lemmings, they struck out like new direction, started doing like a whole bunch of platformers, like and whatnot. Until they came out with a few years later, the original game, very different game by today's standards, but still the start of a franchise. They created the very first Grand Theft Auto game, which did very well. So the company, so after that, the company bounced around. A couple of hands, and then they got acquired by Take-Two Interactive in 2001, and got renamed again to Rockstar Games North. So, which is how they're known as these days, because Rockstar already existed at that point. They were just like brought into the Rockstar umbrella. But Rockstar North is like the group responsible for most of Rockstar's like biggest successes like Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto like 4 and 5. So, yeah, they're doing pretty well for themselves these days.
Are you sure about that?
Yep.
Are you sure they're making a lot of money off of 12-year-olds buying shark cards for GTA Online on Grand Theft Auto 5?
Well, they're not directly.
I bet you a bunch of you don't even know what I just said. There's microtransactions in Grand Theft Auto 5, people.
Yeah, I knew that, but I heard they're not as egregious in that game, though, as some other games, which we won't talk about here at this point, because we can very easily get sidetracked on that, can't we?
Oh, you want to talk about sidetracks? We had a really crazy episode, Master System Masterpieces.
Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah.
So Psygnosis was a pretty large European publisher of games back then during the 80s and 90s. They were also founded like DMA Design back in 1984, and they published numerous games like under their watch. Besides the Lemmings series, they're also probably best known for the Formula One series of racing games, and the Colony Wars series, like the PlayStation. Remember those games?
Yes, I actually own Colony Wars. I have not played it yet.
Yeah, it's pretty good, actually. I think the sequel's better, but, Colony Wars is like a pretty fun game.
Formula 1's been around for a while. When are they going to make Formula 2?
There's no joke. Psygnosis was eventually bought out by Sony, and Sony closed them in 2012.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
So and I don't know exactly why. I couldn't find an exact reason for it, but the Lemming franchise is not owned by Take-Two Interactive. The Lemming franchise these days is owned by Sony. I think probably because it's part of the. I suspect like I said, I couldn't find it for sure, but I suspect the reason for that is probably because the publisher agreement way back when gave the rights of the series to the publisher, like not the developer, which happens sometimes, like in those cases. So
I was just about to say that because they were the developer. If they were taken over, then
yeah. So
yeah, that's why there was a lot of trading with Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah,
because there's just. Too much to go into the history there, but eventually, like Vivendi had it, and then this company had it, and this and that, and oh, geez. So I saw one claim online that Lemmings may be the most ported game in history. I don't know about that, but certainly really,
yeah.
I would have thought like Doom or something.
Well, I really don't know about that, but to say this game got ported a lot would not be. That
would not be a lie.
No. Back then, I'm not talking about like modern remakes. I'm talking about back then. How many?
Yeah, like back,
right.
Which is crazy.
So how many?
Like how a game got around.
Yeah. So how many ports do you think actually, like officially existed this game, George?
I'm gonna say at least 10.
Higher.
Yeah, I thought
it's probably
so.
easier to say which system to support. It's probably easier to,
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's probably easier to say.
How about 20?
Very close, 21.
All right.
This came out on, besides Super NES, it also came out on the NES, the CDI, the Game Gear, the Genesis, Sega Master System, PC, Amiga, Turbo CD, Commodore 64, Lynx, PlayStation Vita, Atari ST, Macintosh, the Sinclair, the Sharp X68000, the FM Towns, the Armstead CPC, the 3DO, the Game Boy, the Game Boy, and the Amiga CD32. And more recently, there was also remakes of their game that came on the PSP, the PS2, and the PS3. So
I didn't know it was on the Master System.
Oh yeah, lots of ports.
Oh, the second game was on the Master System as well.
The second game got ported quite a lot too, but not quite as much as the first game.
Holy crap! This actually looks good on the Master System.
Yeah.
Wow.
The NES version of this game is pretty rare because it came out like pretty late. Pretty late, like the system's life, the system's lifestyle. But
the Master System version almost looks like the SNES version. That's very strange.
Yeah. All the versions got pretty favorably received. The handheld ones being the weakest because, of course, they're for handhelds. But the computer versions of the game are considered are universally considered to be the best. The Amiga.
Well, obviously, you get to use a mouse.
Two mice in the case of the Amiga. Like,
what?
Yeah, this game also has like some. This game also has 2-player mode, where 2 players can play on the map simultaneously. And whoever does their mission first wins. The Amiga has support for like dual mice, so without causing hardware conflicts like the PC often ran into. That is weird. So like the original Amiga version, you can have two people playing simultaneously, like both on a mouse. This game, the Super NES, does not support the mouse, but the sequel, Lemmings 2: The Tribes, does. So, because I think this game came out before the mouse was supported. I
think that's right.
With the mouse came out in the Super NES.
Which is a shame. I would have liked to play this with the mouse.
Yep.
Yeah.
This was one of the very first ports of the game. This came out in Japan December of '91, and it came out for the Super NES in North America and Europe in the summer of '92. The Super NES version of the game was converted and ported over by Sunsoft. I don't know if we talked about Sunsoft before in the past. Sunsoft was a major publisher like in the 80s and 90s.
Sunsoft was very good.
Yeah, very big company. A lot of good games like down on their watch. So they're also unfortunately no longer around anymore these days. But
weren't they like bought out or something, or did they just go bankrupt?
No. The parent company, Sun Electronics, just shut down the company eventually.
That's what it was, right?
So because Sun Electronics is still around. You still have some Sunsoft games being ported to mobile platforms, I think, but by and by,
I think that's true.
By and by the company itself is like pretty gone. So Lemmings real quick is a puzzle game where basically you are trying to like each mission. The original version of the game had 120 maps. You're trying to ensure that X number of lemmings are able to get to the exit in time without dying, because these lemmings are quite stupid. They're suicidal. They will blindly walk off the edge of a cliff and kill themselves with no questions asked unless you actually help them out. So the challenge of the game, is to try to get them to go from point A to point B without dying on you. So like in a very like cutesy, fun, hair-pulling, agonizing way as you go through the game. That's the game in a nutshell. We probably should talk a little bit about lemmings themselves and where this notion about like being a lemming came from, because the lemming is a small rodent that's found in the Arctic regions of the planet. They're in the same subfamily with better known creatures like rats, mice, hamsters, and gerbils. And the lemming itself is like a small, like small, cute, harmless rodent, pretty much. But there was you can blame Disney for the popular conception that lemmings will just blindly walk off a cliff and commit suicide like en masse. There was a documentary film that they made in '55 called White Wilderness, where they showed lemmings doing that. That was actually faked. They actually took lemmings and forced them off the cliff, pretty much, to create that scene.
Wow, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, Disney has some problems, but they
Hey, let's make a documentary. What are we gonna do? I don't know. Throw animals off a cliff.
But that notion about mass suicide. There's also what's about for lemmings. It was also into popular culture. There is a phrase that's used these days, like we tell somebody not to be a lemming, but not actually going along with the crowd, flying out doing like something stupid. So,
I honestly never heard of that.
oh yeah, you hear it every now and then.
Huh.
So, but there's been numerous articles and books written about the history of lemmings. So I'm not going to go into the whole thing right here, because frankly, if I did, I could go on for hours. But real quick,
yeah, no, let's keep this short.
But real quick, in a nutshell, the guys DMA Design were doing some testing work using a paint program for trying to get a walking routine debugged correctly for one of their games. And so they came up with the idea of a guy walking around smoothly on screen, and somebody had the idea of making a game out of it. And that's how the idea of Lemmings came about.
That's a pretty good idea, though.
Yeah. So they made the hair green to make it stand out better, like on the computers at the time. And so they look kind of human-like. There are some cutscenes in the game where we actually see the lemmings, and they're actually full 3D painted like human-like appearance. They kind of have a strange face with a long nose, and a long nose like simple green long the unitard shirt. So yeah, they're kind of cute. The overall look of lemmings has stayed the same over the years. Curious enough, and actually didn't know about this. I was doing research. Like I said, the game was very, very popular when it came out. Data East acquired the rights to actually make an arcade version of Lemmings. Which got pretty far in development. Up to the prototype stage before it got canceled, unfortunately, because of the financial problems that Data East was having at the time. But there was one feature that the arcade game introduced, which the guys liked so much that they included in the sequel, the fast forward feature. Because one of the small flaws of this game is that after you finish a stage, you just have to sit there and wait for your lemmings to actually reach the exit stage. In the canceled arcade version and in the sequels, there's a fast forward button, so you can click on that after you're done, and you're just gonna go whoop, just right to the end. So that's pretty cool. If Lemmings had come out in the arcade, this would have been only one of three games that I'm aware of that started out on the computer and eventually came over an arcade. Eventually made their way over to arcade hardware. The other two being Pitfall and Shoplifter.
Right.
So. So pretty much like I said before, this is a puzzle game. The original game had 120 maps. There was an expansion pack released to the computer shortly after this game came out called Oh No More Lemmings that introduced more stages. Most of the console versions also have special bonus stages that are exclusive to that version as well. The Super NES version, for example, has 5 special levels at the end of the game for a total of 125 levels. There's 30 stages. There's 4 difficulty levels. The game tells you the start of the stage what you're trying to do. It tells you how long you have. If time runs out, it's game over. It tells you how many lemmings are going to be released. There could be as many as 100. There could be as few as 1. There's a couple stages where you have a single lone lemming you have to get to safety, and do not think that's easy because it's not. It tells you how many lemmings you have.
My favorite part is when I saved 79%.
Yeah.
And I needed to save 80.
I know, frustrating. Yeah, so it also tells you how many lemons you have to save. It can be as high as 100%. It can be as low as like 66%. That's the lowest I've ever seen. So
there's one where you have to get at least like 10% in.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Those are like the earlier levels though, because it's like where it's like use an umbrella on all of them, and it's like, okay, well I got 100%, thanks.
And it also tells you the game's default release rate. That's very important also because there's a default release rate that the lemmings will drop out of their hatches. Sometimes one hatch, sometimes there's as much as maybe, sometimes there's as many as 4 hatches. You're doing like some.
Can you actually like control that?
You can. You can't make it go down, but you can make it go up. And in fact, it's curved to many stages to crank it all the way up to 99 after you're done. Because you don't want to sit around and wait for the lemmings to get to the exit. And B, some stages you have to crank it up because time's so short, and the lemmings
right.
You can't leave it a default, or you're not gonna have enough time. So
right.
The four difficulty groups are appropriately named: fun, tricky, taxing, and mayhem. Which kind of
I like fun ones.
Yeah, I got as far as the beginning of the tricky stages. That's where the game really gets tough. But yeah. But yeah, I think that the game developers commented on this, their interviews. I think the game does a very great job of a very gradual good learning. Your learning scale, because the first stages start out very gentle. They start introducing some of the concepts. They introduced you the different kinds of lemmings and what they can do and that kind of stuff. And then finally they started giving like stages where you're like, okay, you have to put these guys together in these concepts we just taught you. The best way a game can impress upon stuff upon you is to like show you how to do it, and then actually make you do it yourself. So like those are the markets of a great game. It's one of the reasons that this game did so well, because the fact that kids could start off playing the game at the difficulty levels and get pretty far in it because the game does a very good job of teaching you how to play it accurately.
Right, but also like the levels are well made too, because it's like I was like banging my head against the wall for like. It was probably like 1 or 2 times, nothing crazy, but it was like, how do I do this level? And then it just like, I was like, oh wait, I could just have this guy do this, and then everybody can just follow through.
There are usually numerous ways to get through a level, but later on in the game, especially in the mayhem difficulty, there's only one way to do it successfully. So, some stages are very long, whereas like you have to like scroll around a lot to jump around from place to place. Some stages is like the exit's right there on the same screen with you, and you just figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
But those short and sweet ones are pretty fun too. So let's talk about the lemmings themselves.
They are dumb and they run off cliffs.
Yes, that's true. But they're very cute. There is some voice in this game, very simple voices. The lemmings will say "Let's go" at the start of a stage when you start off, and if you cause one to blow up, they will go "Oh no" before it blows up. So, there's 8 different types. 8 different types of lemmings, and you're given certain types of lemmings in each stage. Usually, sometimes more lemmings than you need to do certain groups, so not always. So you got to like watch that. Lemming. And you can just simply put the cursor on a lemming when you have the appropriate task highlighted. Push the button to assign that task to a lemming. The tasks are climber. A lemming given this task will climb walls automatically. There's the floater ability, which will cause the lemming, as George mentioned earlier, to sprout an umbrella, because lemmings can only survive a drop for a certain height. But a lemming with floater ability can survive like any drop. If you combine the two of those abilities, the climber and the floater, they can make an athlete who can pretty much go like anywhere on the board, like those abilities. You have the bomber ability, which causes lemming to blow up. More about that here in like a little bit. You have the blocker lemming, great for most stages. He acts as like a police guard. He basically just like stands there permanently and will just like stop lemmings from like like going past it, because in most stages you have to like simply like drop the lemmings in like an area until you get like 1 or 2 lemmings sent out to go take care of the path to the path to the exits.
Can you order the blockers to stop blocking?
There's only 2 ways to get rid of a blocker. You either have to cause him to blow up, or you can, or if he's on appropriate ground, you can mine under him. Once he loses the ground underneath him, stop blocking. It's like it becomes like a regular lemming again.
Okay.
So,
because I was just like, because there were levels where it's like everybody's in except for the blockers, so I can't figure out what to do, so I'm just gonna blow them up.
yeah, that's what you got to do. Like in those cases.
That's a shame. I wish there was like a way to be like, hey buddy, we're done. Just come over here.
He gave his life for the cause, so.
Yeah.
There's the aforementioned miner I just talked about. Miners will dig at a 45-degree angle into the ground, depending upon the like if it's appropriate enough surface, like a surface for them. There's a digger who will dig.
Is it true that miners are also too young to drink alcohol?
I have no idea where you're going with that.
Miners?
Oh, okay, yes. Okay, yeah. I would not trust these lemmings with alcohol personally, because they're this dumb to begin with. God knows what they'd be like with booze in their system.
Oh, jeez.
There's a digger who like will dig straight down until he's stopped or until he runs to a ground or surface. The surface like we can't dig like anymore. There's the builder, who's very important. The builder will build staircases at like a 45-degree angle until he runs out of bricks, which is about like a dozen bricks. You'll hear him do the last 3. He'll make a sound effect for the last 3 bricks he has.
I noticed that like right away for some reason.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, now I know when to click on him again so he can keep building.
And I love the animation when he's done. He switches to building, he just shrugs.
He just shrugs, yeah.
Like, okay, I'm done.
I think that might be because it gives you time to click on him so he can build again, just in case you need it.
Yeah, if you're quick. Yeah. So, but there's also the burrower who will dig a straight tunnel like through through a surface. So, and I believe that's all 8 lemmings. I think I covered like all 8 lemmings. Yeah. So careful use of the lemmings is critical to get through all the stages. There's also the panic button. You can pull that button to cause all the lemmings on screen to go boom. This is useful either when you're done and you're okay with the remaining lemmings on the screen to blow themselves up, or if you realize you've effed yourself up and you have to start over again. So the game screen, besides having the icon in the bottom for all those lemmings, and also for the speed up, speed down release rate, there's also a mini map which you can use to quickly move around from place to place just by putting the just putting the cursor on it and like pushing a button. It's very handy to warp you around from like area on the stage. And you also see, for example, on the screen the current job of the lemming currently selected in the cursor block, and also how many lemmings are on screen right now, how many lemmings have been saved, percentage points, and how much time you have left. So it's like pretty easy to get the hang of.
I don't like having timers in games.
Well, it's appropriate for puzzle game because it's like they don't want to give you like.
Is it though?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think so. Like, I would prefer games like these, or just games in general. Like, there are some instances where timers needed, sure, but I don't feel like it's necessary to have a timer for a lot of these games.
Yeah, but it wasn't. Yeah, but if there's no timer, it would take away half the challenge.
Well, not really, because you have the challenge of trying to figure out how to get your lemmings to the other side or whatever.
Yeah, but
is it just me?
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but the timer concept doesn't really bother me at all. But you know,
it might just be because I've been playing other games that are not puzzle games that also have timers. And they have annoyed me. What
is useless though in this game is they give you a score like for every stage after you're done. It's like, what's the point of that?
Well, you brag to your friends if you have the highest score, obviously.
Yeah, well, it's not a cumulative.
I was playing Lemons last night and I got 1,000,000 points. Beat that, Jimmy.
It's not cumulative. I mean, it doesn't carry over from stage to stage. There's only the score for that one stage. So
I don't know. Maybe it like adds extra gameplay to like, oh, I got like 2,000 points or whatever. Like I got 20,000 points on this level. Let me go for 25.
But you could also do the same thing just by saying like how many what percentage of lemmings you got to safety, because that's how it calculates the score. It's just something like like a very like easy to figure out fixed point scale, where it gives you like 1,000 points for each lemming saved. So it's like,
well, I tried, Greg.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
I tried.
Yeah, so the score's kind of useless in this game, but
it's pretty numbers on the screen.
What's not useless though is the password. It gives you a password. It gives you an 8-letter password after each stage, which is
I don't know. It seems pretty useless if you're using save states.
well, yeah. Nowadays you're playing like an emulator or whatnot. But I'm saying like back then, because like many games didn't have batteries like this point because of cost reasons. So as far as passwords go, it's a pretty simple. It's pretty simple password system. You only use like 4 letters, so it's pretty easy. Pretty easy to write down.
Yeah, thank God passwords evolved into like 4 letters or whatever, and not here have like 500 pictures and then you gotta put in all these letters, but oh no, some of the letters look the same.
Yeah, not a problem with this one actually.
Yeah.
So that's so this is a good segue to talk about one of the weakest points about this version of the game. Unfortunately, not really like a deal breaker, but it's kind of put the game down a little bit compared to the PC versions. The controls, because anytime you port a PC game to console, you're gonna have problems trying to convert the controls, because you have a game that's originally meant to be used with mouse and keyboard that you're trying to have to operate like a controller instead. So, I mean, Sunsoft tried; they did a pretty good job, but there are some problems with it. So, I'm curious to know if you had the same problems with it that I did, George.
I don't know. I can't think of any problems I've had.
Well, the biggest issue with this is like the pixel precision. It's very difficult, just like one lemming to highlight to assign a task to, like that controller.
I didn't have trouble selecting like in that way. It was more of like I'm using a D-pad to move a cursor.
Yeah, it's clunky.
And that isn't the best. But I liked how nice and snappy the UI was, because like you didn't even have to move the cursor over to what you wanted. You could use I think it was X and Y to move that over. So that's pretty good. They actually use the extra buttons for something in the game.
Yep, I was going to mention that. Like, very good, like, use the buttons here in this game, because that allows you to very quickly highlight various Lemmings tasks and have them ready to go, which believe me, later on in the game you need. Right. You could pause the game too anytime you want to look around and figure things out. You can't assign any tasks to Lemmings while it's paused. That would be cheating. But you can get the cursor ready to go. So as soon as you unpause the game, you can assign a task to the lemming, because later on
I like when games do that. Yeah, that's very helpful.
Yes, because later on in the game, later in the game when you're trying to assign a task to one lemming in a group of like 20 or 30, good luck, you'll need it. Minus the inherent issues of trying to map a computer game over to the console, and the controller being a bit clunky. I mean it works. It's not ideal, but it's not like a deal breaker either. I mean, at least they tried, and they did a pretty good job of the hotkey buttons and whatnot. So
yeah. Also, I think you can use L and R to scroll around the area, but you can't you also just move the cursor to the edge of the screen and do that too?
Yep, that works too. And you can also use the mini map. And also, like I said before, you can also use the mini map to hop around quickly from area to area if you want to.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is very important.
I never did that.
Yeah, which is very important. Like later levels. So the game operates pretty smoothly. There is, however, in some stages some stages when there's 100 lemmings on screen, plus also fire traps. It's pushing the Super NES processor to its limit. So there's like in those stages there's a bit of slowdown, unfortunately, which which can't be helped. So
yeah,
but beyond that, the game operates pretty smoothly. Like the scrolling around was fine. I really didn't see any jerkiness. There may have been like a quick millisecond delay sometimes, but not really like that much of a problem.
I didn't see any of that.
Yeah. So one of the only things that people commented about this game when it originally came out in 1991 across all the platforms was they felt the graphics and sound were a little bit not utilized to the best of the system's abilities, and that's certainly true here with this version of the game too, because the game...
But I mean, that's not really the main point of the game.
No, it's not. I mean, because graphically the game's fine. It's not as good as it could be. They didn't do anything to optimize it for the Super NES hardware, obviously, but the Lemmings themselves look fine. I mean, the icons on the bottom of the screen are big enough so you can tell easily like what's what as far as tasks go and whatnot. So, and there are some cute touches to the graphics. The color choices are a bit curious, I think. Like pink walls and that kind of stuff. But meh. It is what it is.
I like how random it is with the landscapes. One level is just it's kind of like a normal level or whatever, and then another one's you're in hell, and it's whoa, okay.
Yes, this game got censored a little bit by Nintendo. When it came over to Super NES. So
did it?
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. Unfortunately, they changed some of these. Some of the themes of some of the levels got reworked because Nintendo during this time period was still very anti-violent, anti-religious, pretty much everything with their games. So it's like
they were Nintendo of America. Yeah, that's what they were.
For example, one of the levels you have. Is essentially a big, three big numbers, 666. You had to play with the Lemmings through. So nope, that had to be changed. So and another Lemming level had the word death painted on the wall with an arrow pointing toward a trap, and they changed that. Going to change the wording of the change the wording by that level also. Some of the stage names also got.
I mean, it's not lying. If they drop in there, they're gonna die.
Oh yeah, of course. But yeah, they just didn't want the word in there. So, but they. So yeah, if you got the changes also to make it more family friendly, quote unquote. So I mean, censorship hurts a little bit, but it doesn't really impact the fun value of the game too much.
This game, no.
Yeah. So
it's just annoying.
Yeah. So I mean, the graphics are fine because, like I said, it's very faithful, looking the original PC version. Because the Amiga version was the original. The Amiga had the best graphics because the Amiga I think probably had a better graphic processor overall than Super NES did because it was a computer. So they toned it down a little bit with Super NES, but still the graphics do a fine job at least. So, but music also unfortunately they didn't do anything to enhance the music because the music in this game sounds a bit tinny. I thought it really didn't take. They didn't do anything to maximize the sound hardware to make it to better utilize Super NES sound chip, unfortunately. Curious trivia note about the music. The original plan was to use sampled popular music on the game, but this was during a time period where companies used to be able to do that willy-nilly in the 80s, but by the early 90s, people were starting to take notice and crackdowns were starting to happen in the industry about that. So decided to go ahead and just use themes, themes on the public domain. So all the music in this game is just remixes popular classic music that's classic music that's in the popular domain. So you have, for example, you have the Wedding March. You have Old MacDonald Had a Farm. You have Going Around the Mountain, the Can Can Song, and some other popular well-known music.
Yep.
What do you think? What do you think like, what do you think the musical like overall, George?
I mean, it's something in the background, but it's nothing special.
Yeah, I like the songs. The remix of the songs are nice. Some of them repeat.
It adds to the game somewhat. I mean, it's better than having silence.
Sure. Yeah, it repeats a little bit too often, I think, though, unfortunately. And some of the music themes are also like very short. For example, like they re-loop after like a minute or so you're hearing it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But like I said, it sounds a bit tinny on the Super NES, unfortunately, because like I said, it's straight ported over from the PC version. PC sound wasn't really that great at this time period, so
Are you sure about that?
Well, the ad lib was out at this point. The Sound Blaster, I think first came out in '92. So
that's a little out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, great music was coming. It was coming. It just wasn't quite there yet at this point. So compared to the Amiga version, the Amiga came out in the box with like great sound hardware. So that's one of the many pluses that that computer had. So yeah.
Sound Blaster came out in 1989.
Oh, okay, yeah, that old. Yep.
The 1.0, yes.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a Sound Blaster yet at this point because they were like too expensive.
What was in that area? 91 Sound Blaster. You had ad lib. What else did you have?
Yeah. The ad lib was the most popular one. I mean,
did you have like roll-ins or was that later?
No. The Rowan MT32 was out. That was a very popular card, but that was also like very expensive. That was like that's like a $500. Yeah. That's like $400 $500 card. So
right.
Yeah, there are a few other special high-end cards available in the market too. So thank God things become standardized. Since then. So
it's so weird that they're still making Sound Blaster cards.
Yeah. Well, it's a very popular card. Like speaking about sound. Speaking about sound effects in this game are great. Sound effects are a very important part of the gameplay too, because like I said, like we mentioned earlier, the noise the builders make, the last 3 bricks that they lay down is very important.
Yeah, some of them, some of those sounds give you some context and it's helpful.
I love the whole a bomber blowing up part, because it's like because Lemming counts down. He says, "Oh no!" like in that voice. He shakes a little bit, and then he goes poof with the sound effect, and he blows up in a pretty graphic manner.
Yeah.
I mean,
bits and pieces everywhere.
It throws parts of him halfway across the screen. It's not. So yeah, it's probably a good thing the graphic resolution is not high quality, because that'd be like pretty.
I'm surprised Nintendo didn't try to censor that.
Well, there's no blood actually being shown.
No,
so
but I mean, a creature is getting all parts of its body scattered across the screen because it exploded.
Yeah, and bombing's very important. It's like some later areas of the game too. There are some stages where you have to carefully time the countdown of bombers to blow up to make an opening through a brick wall, because you have no builders or tunnelers. So it's like the only way you can get through, they're sending Lemmings out to suicide bomb themselves to make a way. So. Yeah, the game gets the game gets very difficult later on with some of the challenges it has to do for you. Speaking about that, level design in this game, I think, is a mixed bag, because you mentioned earlier that the game does a pretty good job of making creative ways to get through levels, and they do. The problem I have with the game is that I understand why this happens, because of course, 120 levels. How many original ideas can you have? A lot of the concepts and ideas are recycled quite a lot in this game. For example, you may see the same stage later on, 23rd stage later on, except this time there's just one extra twist to it, or one extra difficulty. It's like
there's one really tall wall.
Yeah, it's like been there, done that already. So yeah. Level design is uniformly considered to be better in the sequel. Lemmings 2: The Tribes.
Oh, okay.
Everybody considers that game has better level design, but yeah, I understand why it is, because this game this game was put together by like 5 people pretty much. So it's like you can only have so many like original ideas. So, but yeah, like understanding that the levels are very varied. At least I will give it that much. And like I said, there are numerous ways to get through most levels. Some of the very difficult levels. Because like I said, I got to about like stage 33 before I had to quit. I did watch a Let's Play though of the whole game, and some of the later levels are brutal. There's only you need to be pixel perfect precision. You need to memorize how many steps this lemming takes before he digs, how far this lemming digs before he has to stop, how many. You have to multitask back and forth furiously, between furiously.
I don't like when puzzle games get that deep.
Yeah, it gets very devious.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
So it gets very tough. And like I said, there's 5 special levels in this game, which are called the Sunsoft levels, which are really, really difficult. Being the last like 5 being the last like 5 levels of the game. So, but yeah, so the franchise, like I said, this game was very, very popular when it came out, so no surprise that it spawned a sequel. There was also a 2-player option. We talked about that. Like a little bit before earlier. The Super NES version of the game does include that, also, by the way. Populous, the game we covered before, George, was also one of the inspirations like the 2-player option of this game. So,
okay.
So, let's see here. There was also Holiday Lemmings series of short games that was released between 1991 and 94. Just that they're new stages, but of course like Christmas themed. So that's the main difference. The main difference of that.
Watch your lemmings die on Christmas.
Yeah, pretty much. So, the game was so popular enough that besides the expansion pack, like Oh No More Lemmings and the Christmas Lemming short games, there was Lemmings 2: The Tribes, came out in 1993, All New World of Lemmings and Lemmings in 1994, 3D Lemmings in 1995, and Lemmings Revolution 2000. So there's also a couple of spin-off games made. The Adventures of Lomax. Lomax, is one of the characters from the Lemmings games in the later games, and also curiously enough, a Lemmings paintball game, which sounds very funky.
That sounds weird.
And like I said before, there was more recent years. Sony did make remakes of Lemmings for the the PSP, the PS2, and the PS3. So the franchise is still kind of semi-around. I mean, I guess Sony has done anything with it recently, but they are still doing something with the franchise at least. So there was a bunch of.
I mean, there have been clones that have come out in recent years.
Yeah, and there were clones back then too. Many clones.
Oh, of course.
The Humans, for example, was another popular clone game, which was. Which also inspired the Lost Vikings, in the later years after that. And Blizzard's also quoted, and Blizzard's also on the record of saying that it was also inspiration for Warcraft, because they argue, and some people agree, that Lemmings is kind of a predecessor to the modern real-time strategy game. I mean,
which is really weird.
I mean, I can see that. I see that there are aspects to this, like most games. So, this quote I found in research is great because it kind of shows the whole addictive nature of the game. There was a warning on the box, by the way, right on the front of the box that says warning, we're not responsible for loss of sanity, loss of hair, and loss of sleep. So famous sci-fi author Terry Pratchett, a British sci-fi author. I'm not sure if you heard about the guy, but
no.
One of his books, he had an army of golems that was controlled into fashion reminiscent of the Lemmings user interface. And so when people reading the book saw that and asked about it, like there was a connection, Pratchett responded, quote, merely because the Red Army can fight, dig, march, climb, and is controlled by little icons? Can't imagine how anyone thought that. Not only did I wipe the Lemmings from my hard drive, I wrote so I couldn't get it back. That's a sign of an addiction right there.
All right.
I'm so addicted to the game. I had a game. I not only have to delete the game from my computer. I also got to overwrite that sucker so I couldn't get it back.
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty funny because this game still is considered to be. Yeah, this game still held up in very high regard today. Lemmings the Amiga first day of release, which back in 1991 was very impressive. 55,000 copies sold during the very first day. So, their estimates that between like when the game came out to now across all platforms and all ports, the game sold over 20 million copies worldwide.
Wow.
There's also the game's also, the Super NES version of the game also scored pretty highly when it came out back then. There's numerous awards that the game's gotten over the years. Amiga Power called it the second best Amiga game of all time. Mega, which was the popular British magazine, called it the 23rd best game of all time. Computer Gaming World called it the 12th best game of all time. Edge, more recently in 2007, called it the 82nd best game of all time. And Next Generation in 1996 called it the 8th best game of all time. So, lots of love for this game over the years.
Wow.
So yeah, and I can see it. It's been argued that Lemmings is probably the most popular for a puzzle franchise. Right next to Tetris. So that's pretty high praise indeed.
Right.
So as a puzzle game, I mean, there are platformer aspects to the game. It's not like pure puzzle because there are some parts of the game that depend entirely upon reflexes and quick action and moving from you. But the game primarily a puzzle game, I'd probably say. So, and yeah, I get frustrated with the game because eventually because I don't do very well with puzzle games. Even though I like them, I really have a love-hate relationship with puzzle games, as I mentioned before in the past in the podcast. But yeah, it's a fun game. It's very cute. You get mad elements sometimes, like being stupid. But it's also very challenging trying to figure out how to get to Lemmings of safety like a stage. So there's a lot of variety in this game, and the Super NES version of the game holds up pretty well to this day, I think. When you get used to the controls, the game is a very good port of the game. Sunsoft, I thought did a really good job of porting the game over like the PC. So, only having the mouse support is the only thing that's really holding it back, which the sequel takes care of. We'll have to cut the sequel at some point in the future.
Okay.
But so if you like puzzle games somehow miss this one, I definitely recommend. By all means play it. Like I said before, all the console versions all the ports of this game hold up pretty well. But the Super NES version of the game was going to be the Super NES version of the game was rated to be as one of the 5 best ports of this game. Generally speaking, one of the magazines rated the 5 best versions of Lemmings being the original Amiga, the PC, the Atari ST, the Super NES, and curiously enough, the 3DO version also got very, very high marks. So, but which is good because the 3DO doesn't really have a lot of great must play games on it anymore these days. So.
Anymore? Did it have it before?
It did, yeah. There was some very like some very there was some exclusive games to the system back when it came out, and there was also some ports that were considered to be the must have version of the game to play. We mentioned this briefly in our last PlayStation Power podcast, George. The Need for Speed franchise started out to start out 3DO.
Yes, it did.
Star Control 2 had a great remake on 3DO that only recently became available on the PC. The Doom version, the Doom port on 3DO was thought of like very highly. And there's some other like very good games out there too for it. So. But anyway, what do you think about this game, like overall, George? Did you?
I thought it was a cool game, but I'm not crazy about it. But it was definitely interesting going through it and playing all the levels and seeing how everything works and whatnot. Probably not really going to go back to it, but it was an interesting thing to take a look at while we were covering this.
Yeah, that's because you're not really like a huge puzzle fan, right?
It depends on what it is. I like a good Tetris.
Okay, yeah. So I think you and I are pretty much in agreement of the podcast as to what we thought the best and weakest parts about the game was. Was there anything about the game you really liked or disliked based upon that we haven't covered already?
Well, the Lemmings explode. They explode into a million pieces.
That's a great animation. That's very cute. That never gets old.
Right.
So anyway, so Lemmings, fun game. So if you're not a puzzle fan, definitely worth checking out. So just keep in mind, the Lemmings do not do this in real life, thank God.
Are you sure they don't explode into a million pieces?
I'm not sure about that, but not sure about that. But they definitely don't. They definitely are dumb enough to commit mass suicide like they do in this game.
Maybe we're gonna uncover some hidden footage from Disney where they stuck dynamite in the Lemmings' mouths or something, and like, look, they explode too.
So. Anyway, on that cheery note, thank you very much for listening to this podcast as always, and thank you again to Chad for backing us on Patreon and for suggesting that we play this game. Well, actually,
thank you.
He requested we play this game. How about that for word choice?
He demanded it.
If you want to, if you want to be cool like Chad, you can also back us on Patreon.
I do.
You can find us at the what's the link again? Shoot, I know that George changed it. Patreon, Patreon links suck. You can find us at patreon.com/SNES podcast. We can back us for as like $1 a month. If you get that $1 a month, you get a shout out on the podcast. So besides George, we'd also at this point like to
You mean besides Chad?
Yes, sorry. I said that wrong, didn't I?
You said my name.
I did say your name.
Yeah.
I mean you're special too, but
I'm backing in spirit.
But besides Chad, we also want to thank Richard Valdez very much for being a sponsor. So thank you, Richard. You can find us on Facebook. We have a page on there where you can like, comment, have questions, make suggestions like other games, that kind of stuff. So, I almost forgot to mention codes on eBay. There is one code for this game. You can access. If you want to, you can access the sound test for the sound effects and music on the house screen by holding select and hit start. This game's very popular, so it's pretty cheap on eBay. All things considered for Super NES games. 67 copies currently listed. 51 copies are recently sold. Card only. These prices with shipping can range from $750 to $20. So
That's not that bad.
no, the game definitely worth like $7.50. So
Yeah.
2 copies of the game recently sold CIB. One for $30.50, and one for $36.50. And George, your favorite, this game originally also came with a poster.
Ooh.
Yep. And there's also a factory sealed copy of the game that recently sold on eBay. $190.
What's on the poster? What you gonna do when the Lemmings come for you?
Just a poster like original like PC box cover.
Okay.
So I'm still nice to include. So
Yeah.
So besides Patreon and eBay, beyond Patreon and Facebook, you can also find us on iTunes, where you can give us.
You can find us on eBay.
No, well,
I'm selling Greg.
and you can also email me directly if you want to at the SNESpodcast@yahoo.com. George, where can people find you, and Kim, what are the podcasts you do?
Oh boy, well I do Master System Masterpieces, where I cover Master System games with my co-host. Do we really cover the games? I don't even know. We talk about stuff. Well, I think the most on-point episode recently was the Ninja Gaiden episode that you were a part of. But
right.
Yeah, we talked. Last episode we talked about air conditioners and ovens becoming one complete entity.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, Greg and I also do PlayStation Power, where we cover PlayStation 2, and PSP games.
Yes, we do.
And yeah, we do. And where you can find me on Twitter. That would be at Mr. Chief, at MISTURCHEEF. And if you're interested, I stream on Twitch. I haven't really done SNES or Master System or anything like that, but I do play some old games. It might be PlayStation 2, but sometimes I play newer games too. Hey, look at that! But you could go to twitch.tv/Mr. Chief, same name, same spelling as my Twitter. That's about it.
Cool. So coming up next in the podcast, I'm very, very proud about this. We're having our special 100th episode.
Oh, jeez.
Which should be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing a game draft episode, which some other great podcasts have done in recent years. And we have so many guest hosts tentatively lined up for this. We're actually recording this in 2 sessions. So you're going to get one episode first, and then 2 weeks later get another episode. So it's like to be 100 part A and 100 part B. So just to go over the idea of the draft, how it works real quick. It operates in the same premise like a sports draft. We're going to be randomly assigning order at the start of the podcast for the order for everybody, and each person will take a turn picking one of their favorite games for the system. And we'll go around in a circle until we've picked a number of games, 4 or 5 games. It hasn't really been determined yet how many games. There's still a couple final details to work out. But games once picked cannot be picked by anybody else. So the people who are in episode B will not be able to pick games selected in episode A either, for example. And all imports are allowed, all homebrews are allowed. It's just the illegal hacks and powered copies of games and whatnot, or the restrictions of games which are not allowed. So tentatively at this point, the lineup of the episodes, this is subject to change. I have to be very careful about saying that, but as of right now, tentatively planned to be with us in those episodes. For the first episode, we're supposed to have Nick, from the many great pinball podcasts that he does, Aaron from Retro Obscura, Phil, the No Swear Gamer, who does a great show just like a great channel like YouTube, and Will from the Television Podcast. Planning for the second episode, we have Chris and Dan from the Stone Age Gamer Podcast, and you like another great podcast that they do over there, like the network. Willie have numerous podcasts. I thought Willie has cut down on their cut down the number of podcasts he's done recently. So
he's going on a diet.
Yeah, he also does Arcade USA on YouTube, which is also like a great channel. And Ferg from the 2600 Game by Game podcast. So should be a lot of fun. 5 or 6 people in a podcast. Going to be a challenge. So
is it though?
The most people I've ever heard in a podcast is 5. That's very rare. So could be a challenge. We're gonna have to.
Well, we've also done it on an episode of PlayStation Power.
That's true. We did, yes. But
and it was interesting.
But we didn't have 5 people there for the whole podcast. Podcast though. So
yeah, we did.
No, somebody dropped out pretty soon. Well, I mean halfway.
No.
Well, I mean halfway or 2/3. Or 2/3 through the episode, had to go.
No.
Pretty sure.
No.
We will have to go back and listen to the tapes instead of us later on. So
I already know, Greg.
Well, I'm standing by my guns, but we'll talk about that later on.
I mean, I'm gonna edit this out, okay?
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So anyway, stay tuned for that. Should be a lot of fun. I expect there to be some very surprise picks to turn up in those episodes too. I know for a fact I'm going to select a game that I highly doubt anybody else has played, probably. So because I love the game to death.
Super Mario Brothers.
All-Star? That may be taken by somebody because that's a very good port.
Super Mario Brothers.
Could be, but. We'll have to wait and find out, won't we? So, but anyway, thank you again always for listening to the podcast. We very much appreciate your support. And remember, don't be a lemming. Think about things in real life, and don't be a follow the crowd type. Be different. Be unique.
I had something I wanted to say at the end, but then I forgot what it was.
That's okay. Goodbye, all. Take care.
Bye.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man. Now you're playing with power.